Good
Hello,
evening.
good evening. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Happy Friday Eve, you Sheet Talker watchers. How's it going?
All good, all good.
I'm trying to turn
Look
it
at
up.
y'all.
Eric and I are
Share.
having to share earphones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
crime for y'all
because,
to be sharing earphones.
right? Well, we couldn't do like the connection and all that stuff. So I'm just like, just share. It's too much. You're stressing me out. So
You're stressing me out. So I'm
how's it
looking for some of the
going?
stuff that you shared with me, and I'm where was it? Was it in
I
Facebook
sent
or
it to
was
you
it
on
in
Facebook Messenger.
text?
Hey, CPJ, I did let him out. Can you tell? He's looking kind of feral these days, you see? And that's why I
Furl.
let him
Going
out.
wild.
He's looking like the wild man we're going to talk about today.
What's up, Eric, man? Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a
It's
long
been like
time since I've
almost,
been on
yeah.
here.
That's what I was thinking.
No one's needed him for a while. So, anyway, okay. Before we go any further, please hit the heart, the like, the wow, the care. And don't be hitting the angry emoji because I can tell
Because
who
we
did
can
it.
see it. We know.
I can see who did it. And I'm going to hit an angry emoji on your stuff.
On your
Even though it's
stuff,
supposed to be like a happy moment for you, I'm just going to hit the angry. But anyway, also make sure you guys comment and let me know that y'all are here. So you might recognize this week's guest. It's the Hubs, Eric, better known as the assistant or my assistant. Eric, thanks for agreeing to be on the show today.
Got a prepared statement.
He has a prepared statement to read for us tonight.
It is an honor to be a guest on your show. Thrilled does not begin to explain how I feel.
I would like for you to have a little bit more emotion when you read my script that I put out for you.
I was going to say, did you write that for him, Sandy?
Look, this is not my handwriting, okay, people? This is not my handwriting. He wrote that.
He must have dictated that for you. You
He
dictated
did.
him, but he just wrote it.
One of those.
One of us is a dictator.
Jamie, why don't you tell us how your week went? Because you had an eventful week so far.
Oh my god!
Do I need to remind you of a couple of things? Because I have them written down.
No, you don't. But I will tell you guys. I'll start off with the heaviest one first, and that is that we were prepared to move into our new house on this coming Monday.
Yeah.
And then some weird error, some stuff that happened in the background somewhere else. Nothing we did. We got the call and said, "Hey, you're not gonna be able to close until maybe 4 days later, maybe 7 days." And it was like, come again?
Yeah.
We just sold our washer and dryer this last weekend, so we've got nothing. We were gonna, put everything in the new house, and it's like,
yeah,
what? And then they were like, so then we had to cancel movers, installs, all that other stuff, and it was just like, you got to be kidding me. So then I got an email today, and they were like, hey, there's a chance you guys can move in on your original close date. And I was like, hallelujah.
Really?
Okay. Yes. But then the sellers said, oh, we can't. We canceled the movers and all that. We can't reschedule fast enough. And we're like, well, never mind.
So y'all were all in the same boat, canceling everybody, rescheduling everything. Oh, that's the worst.
But
oh my gosh.
Let me tell you the silver lining here.
Okay.
About a month ago, a little over a month ago, I don't know how many of you saw, but I lost my pet snake. We lost our pet snake.
Sunny.
And it was really, Sunny the hognose. He's a bit of a drama king. But oh my gosh, I ripped holes in my ceiling, guys. I had 3 holes over here that I put in my ceiling.
You did
and another
that?
one over there. Yeah, I could hear him in the walls. I was like, Sonny.
Okay.
I was like, let's get in and find him. I couldn't find him, and I was like, and we were all devastated. We've all been hard. I get snakes aren't everyone's whatever.
Right.
It's
but they're
family's.
yours.
Yes, and we absolutely love Sonny to death, both of them. And we had all been different times praying, crying, worried, thinking all the different things. Monday morning, I get up for work to go, and I come into this room, and I'm putting my shirt on, and I'm looking down, and I'm like, huh? And then I see this thing move, and I'm like, Sonny, are you kidding me? So I pick him up, and I'm like, are you alive? And he starts hissing at me. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I start yelling
Does
as
he
loud as I
wrap?
possibly
Does he wrap
can.
himself around your neck to hug you and size you
No,
up?
he was wrapping himself around my hand.
Oh,
I run to the house to everyone and I'm yelling. I'm like, ah, I found our snake. So and my wife was like, is he dead? And I'm like, no, he's
these are
alive. Can't you
tears of
see him moving?
joy,
No, but
Dr.
no, I'm like,
Pineapples.
can't you
Tears
see
of
him
joy.
moving? And she looks at him and looks at me and she goes, he's dead? And I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
no. Later on, she said, I'm sorry. It took me a minute to realize that he wasn't dead. And I was like, so I found him in the exact same spot where he got out, which was
Oh my
weird. And
gosh.
but so he's back there. You can't see him because it's dark.
Do you have
I
like
turned
a
off
lock
lights.
on him on Houdini? His name's Houdini. I mean, just put a lock on that. Hopefully, you don't know how to pick it.
No, there's not a lock, but I mean, there's a locking mechanism. I'll put it
Is
that
there
way.
a safeguard in place?
So yeah, we were afraid of having to disclose to those new people. Yeah, there's a snake somewhere in the house. Please don't kill it. Just call me and I'll come get it immediately.
Right. Please don't have an exterminator come over. There's
Oh my
just
gosh,
one.
don't even.
Can you
Anyway,
imagine?
so we found it. We found it. Very happy.
Well, I'm happy for you. I know your girls are
Yes.
probably relieved.
Yes, we all were. So
That's okay.
yeah, even my wife.
This is
my
so
wife
funny.
was so happy.
CPJ says the trophy of salt goes to the assistant. That's funny. CPJ, thank you for being on here. Priscilla, thank you for being on here. And
turn my
Jamie, you
camera
also
off 'cause
got
I'm gonna take
snow, right?
Oh my gosh, guys. Where are we at? April 22nd. 2 days ago, we
Yeah.
had snow all day. And then I woke up yesterday morning and there was still snow. And it was like, what the flip? What the what? So
What in the world? Yeah, I mean, it was like ridiculous. We were trying to, my niece is playing t-ball, so we were trying to be out there with her. And I'm like, look, I'm just going to go sit in the car. I can't do this.
It's a little chilly.
It was a little chilly for me.
yeah, we had about 23 over here. What'd y'all have?
Might as well have been 23. I don't know,
I was
34.
Yeah, mid-30s.
Yeah, I think it was like
40s.
34 or something ridiculous, like for April. But I know we have had like snow and stuff. I feel like we've had it, this late. So
We've had snow on Easter before, so
Snow on Easter. That is so silly to me, guys. That's
right.
So silly.
So
You know what's even sillier?
what?
What we're about to talk about.
Well, I know. Well, first of all,
Oof.
I know you were going to ask me something today because you had just discovered, because I sent you a selfie that I thought was hilarious.
You did. And I saw something on there and I was like, her feature's so bright. But wait a minute. And I kept
Yes,
looking, I
and
was
she's
like,
not even wearing her shades.
So it was so funny because I actually thought I had a dream about Sandy. And then when I realized earlier tonight, I realized, oh, it wasn't a dream. It was actually something I saw in a picture or a video. So
Yes.
I'm gonna do this real quick.
Oh my gosh! Just really
Hold on.
quickly flash it.
Look, do you see that, guys?
You see that?
Look at that. She got some braces on her.
So let's talk shit about that for a second.
Okay.
Because I've had so many questions. So yeah. Oh, Priscilla's saying 2009 there was snow because that was Daniela's first Easter. I mean, what a first Easter. You can't even Easter egg hunt. Oh, she said or rain.
Wow.
It was something. I'm sure Priscilla
It's
something.
something wet.
cold
Something.
rain.
Something where you couldn't go outside and Easter egg hunt.
It wasn't chocolate rain.
So what happened was, we are our worst critics, right? So I've had this wonky tooth forever, and it's always bothered me. Anytime I take a picture, I'm like, look, Eric, look at that tooth. It's waving at people. And so I'm always zooming in.
And I'm like, what tooth?
Yeah, Eric's
What
like,
are you
what
talking
tooth?
about?
And I'm like, you have husband eyes. You can't see the tooth anyway. So anyway.
I might
I
be with
decided-
Eric because when you say that, I'm like, huh?
Exactly. It's something that only I saw. My eyes only gravitated to it. And I don't know why. So anyway, I just told Eric, I said, you know what? I'm just going to go to a little quick consult with the dentist, with the ortho, and just see what he says. So I go in there and I'm like, look, ortho, this is just vanity reasons I'm coming in. I just want you to straighten this one little tooth right here. So anyway, that's not what happened. So they do like all these 3Ds and x-rays and everything. So he's basically like telling me, and I'm trying to be like as straight as possible on this. He's like, your mouth is supposed to be here. Hold on, this way. Pretend this is straight. He said, but it's actually this way. And then I've actually had two people tell me, Sandy, we did kind of think that your that your overbite was getting bigger. Like and I told Eric, I said, I've actually felt like my overbite is growing. And so then I've had a problem where I bite my cheek. Anyway, long story short, I went in for vanity reasons and now I'm in there for health reasons. So he's going to straighten my mouth back up. But the funny thing is, Jamie was like, man, like you're almost 40, dude, and you got braces.
Hold on.
I'm like, well, I'm a man. I'm 40. I can get braces if I want. No,
I wasn't calling it out like that. I was just saying that came with a heavy decision at 40 years old to put them on because.
And it was, but it's like, it's always like the timing was never right. Like, you've got, you're going to do this and then something else happens and you got to pay this.
The
And,
kid broke
so
his arm, the dog needs to go to the vet. The husband needs a spleen taken out. Yeah.
Yes. So anyway,
I'm looking at your
says,
pictures right now, actually, and I'm like, I don't see an overbite anywhere.
See, well, the overbite, no, but that tooth that waves at people. Hey, Sean, how are you, sir? This is so funny. She's like, call it your pageant tooth, waving to the crowd. That's exactly what I told the ortho. I was like, look, I said, I feel like it just comes out in every picture. And I hated doing selfies. And I always did like a million selfies.
She's so crazy.
I always did like a million selfies so that tooth wouldn't come out. Anyway.
I was looking for your 3D print.
Oh, it's
I don't know if it was in
we should have no, it's over there in the bedroom. So anyway, I have a 3D print. I do actually have proof of it being really bad.
Yeah.
No, that's not
okay. I'm gonna stop looking for it because I don't want you to feel like
I'll send it to you and I'll circle.
And I'm gonna be looking at it like I'm gonna be like Eric and I'm gonna be like, what?
No, y'all are okay. Once I show y'all that picture, y'all will see it. But anyway, okay, enough brace talk. Let's get to this. Okay. Quick disclaimer, the views and thoughts and opinions expressed on this show belong solely to the author, yours truly, and not necessarily to the author's employer, organization, committee, or any other group or individual. As always, viewer discretion, listener is advised.
Including these on this show.
So, I'm not even kidding when I tell you that I drove Eric crazy for sure this week. And Cade, he just kind of avoided me when I tried to talk about this week's topic. And anyway, he was like, Mom, what are you listening to? And he would be like, I said feral people. He would just like walk away as soon as possible. So a couple of months ago, I was on TikTok, more than I need to be. And Jamie, I don't know if you can at the moment. Can you share that TikTok video that pretty much stirred this whole topic for me? So, and another disclosure, just because, people are sensitive. Also know that there are people that choose to live off the grid, and I'm in no way calling these people feral people.
Just because you're off the grid doesn't mean you're feral.
Yes. I used to be feral. Eric tried to domesticate me, and so here we are.
Might have been vice versa there.
You are too much. You are too much.
Grew up just a poor farm boy.
Yeah, that's what it is. So anyway, so this TikTok is what spurred it off for me. And apparently I wasn't the only one, because when I went to try to do this research, everybody pretty much cited this TikTok video. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it and then I'm going to pause it. Okay, actually, I'm going to have to read it to you from right here because I don't think you guys can see that. And then we'll push play here in just a second because there's a stitch to it. So basically this girl right here posted this video. And so she says, when you remember the night you heard a family screaming for their lives from the mountaintops of an 800,000 acre national park, and 2 days later, when you asked if everyone was okay, none of the park rangers knew what you were talking about, even though you called the police and they told you they would handle it. And so, Jamie, if you can play it, we'll see if we can hear that, the other girl that comes on part of this video. Did it pause? We don't have any volume.
Hold on. I don't know what.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second.
Okay, no worries. So anyway, so that right there, this girl that was the original video of this, so she goes viral. She goes viral with this video, and she starts actually posting like a little mini series. Of course, longest you can do of a TikTok. If you're not on TikTok, you can only do it for a minute. So it goes viral. She posts 3 videos of what she herself heard while she was out hiking. And
Okay.
you think you got it? So she was banned from, that's the one that I want to capture, is that girl talking next. Because that one just has like a song, and I don't want us to get banned on it or whatever the word is.
I still can't hear it, but can y'all hear it? That's going to be the most important thing.
No, we can't. We can't hear it yet.
Hold on. Tell me.
Okay. Yes, now we can.
Honest to God, I have reshot this 45 times because I want to be really, really careful, girl. But I am absolutely certain that you heard what you heard. And I can only speak for Great Smoky Mountains National Park because that's where I live. There are feral people like wild people that live out in the parks, and they're cannibalistic. And usually they'll just snatch kids, like easy targets and stuff. But they've been known to attack entire families and things like that. So it could have been other things, but federal and local government is very, very well aware of this, and they do everything they can to hide it. But like locals, like they know, we've been new. Look up.
Okay, you're muted.
Yeah, most of it.
I said, look at the what?
Yeah, exactly. So it cuts off. It cuts off. Like you didn't cut it off. That's the way the video was.
Okay, because I listened to it earlier, and I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? Maybe it's just my being at work.
No, not at all. So what happened was lots of people have had to like reshare it over and over because TikTok keeps banning it. So I was able to find it, and that share is just like after several different people have reposted it. So anyway, I actually reached out to that girl at Coincidence Theorist and asked her to be on the show. Never heard from her. So now y'all got to deal with
ever
him.
Again?
Not really. I'm just kidding. Right, she was eaten by a feral person. So no, totally kidding. She just ignored me. But whatever. I didn't want to be on your show anyway.
I'm not the coincidence.
Yeah, you're. This is at notcoincidencetheorist.com. Why did I throw a .com?
You're living back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, because you're from the 90s.
I guess so. Where's AOL.com? Anyway, before I forget, this week is National Park Week, April 17th through the 15th. How fitting, right?
For a small fee, you can get into your national parks.
You don't have to pay for the Smoky Mountains, though.
Because there's feral people.
Because there's feral people. They don't want to charge for their meals to go.
They want to feed them.
Yes, they do. For free.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, go for it.
I'm just what? Okay. Let's just say I feel like this needs to be on an episode of the Strange Connection show. We're talking about feral people, so just paint that for me a little bit better, Sandy. Like, what does feral people really mean?
Okay.
Exactly.
So, based on all of my research, basically, what they interpret a feral person to be is like an inbred wild people that are living possibly underground, possibly in caves, that mainly eat like vegetation, but have on occasion eaten people that they kidnap.
I mean, they need a salad too, I guess.
I mean,
there's different, you hear different stories. There's some that where they talk about, there was kids that have been abandoned or whatnot, and they wind up getting raised by packs of wolves and stuff like that. And but then there's also, I know we were watching a video a couple of one day this week, and
I made him watch it.
Anyway, and that guy said, there's a lot of theories of where they come from. Some say that there may be, some of the Native Americans that were on the Trail of Tears, the Cherokees that were, that left the Trail of Tears and decided just to, kind of make it on their own. And then, just turned, their offspring and so on and so forth became, quote unquote wild people that, were just uncivilized, I guess. I guess that's basically what it boils down to, is that there's people out there that are uncivilized and, don't follow the normal.
Don't bathe regularly. Not really. They
kind
didn't
of
say anything
rules
about
of-
bathing. I just made that
rules
up.
of humanity,
So
Okay.
go for it.
So there's actually a long list of feral people who've lived in the world.
There's like 10 people, yes,
No.
that I did see.
There's
that had stories that like survived and came out and said, I did this or I did that. I think there was only like 1 or 2 that like escaped from the clutches of being like humanized and they went back to their pack of wolves. Something like that.
So I've found stories of children who were raised by ostriches, goats, cattle, sheep, bears,
yes.
dogs, and wolves, and primates
Yes.
and monkeys. 1, 2, 3,
Yes.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. There's about 30. There's
Yeah.
about 30. So what's interesting is I've actually heard of this one particular case where a child was found to be living with feral dogs or wolves,
That's
whichever
the Jungle
one.
Book. That's Disney.
That's a good point.
Mowgli.
It's Mowgli.
So the interesting thing is I know what they've done is they were able to he didn't successfully reintegrate into society kind of thing. And he was impaired for all of his life. He could never really speak or anything like that. And it turns out it's because part of the brain, we as humans, when our brain develops, we only have a finite amount of time before our brain actually picks up the ability to speak. And if we don't utilize that part of our brain, it dies. And so when they did the scans of these kids in those situations, these MRI scans, the part of the brain that stores the speech and all that, it's like a mush. It's mush in the brain. It's all gray matter up there, as opposed to the rest of the brain that's alive and active. And so that means that no matter what, they'll never learn how to speak.
So sad, huh? Because, I don't know. Like most of the people that I saw in those documentaries or whatever, it was like way back in the day. So of course you didn't have that technology. I don't know who the most recent feral person to be discovered is, but most of them had like black and white photos. I think there was one in Mexico, but I think he like managed to get away. I mean, he'd already developed the ability to speak and stuff. So he was good to go. But anyway, so to say that I went down a rabbit hole is an understatement. I've been all over Reddit, 2 or 3 podcasts, YouTube, and the Google, and I was looking for validation or to be debunked. In the end, you guys decide how you want to feel about it. I'm just going to share with you what I found, okay? So the first story, and probably the most famous story that comes across, and I also rented this documentary if you guys want to watch it. It's a slow watch, guys, but I rented it on Prime for like $2.99, and it was Dennis Martin is the name of it. It's on Prime. But anyway, this takes place June 14th, 1969 in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee. So just for reference, if you're like me, I don't know much about the Great Smoky Mountains, but it is 520,000 acres split between Tennessee and North Carolina. And they also get like about 1 million visitors a year. And it's the only park that does not charge admission. Anyway, back to the story. So back to June 14th, 1969, Dennis Martin, who was almost 7 years old, was camping with his family. It was an annual trip, and this would be the first time that Dennis got to tag along. So Dennis was described as a husky and healthy kid who loved to camp and to hike. And I was like, I saw a picture of Dennis, and I'm like, the definition of husky does not match this picture, but okay. Anyway, totally irrelevant, just an observation that I made. Yeah, that does not look husky to me. Right?
It was a different time, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. So anyway, let's see. So they're hiking. They're going to go overnight camp. So they're going to make it to Spence Field. They meet some of their distant cousins, and everybody's talking. And then the little boys conspire, and they're going to do a surprise attack on the adults. Just playing around. The adults are aware that the kids are going to do this little surprise attack. So they're just kind of watching them. The kids were never like that far off that anybody worried where they had gone. So the boys disappear, and they're all hiding behind bushes. And all the boys come out of their hiding places, but Dennis did not. And so he was last seen about like 4:30. And they said he was wearing a red shirt. He was wearing some shorts and some Oxford shoes. And probably within 5 minutes of him being lost, they immediately start searching for him. So they notify. Carrie, that almost reminds me of that Seminole Wind song with
John Anderson.
With John Anderson. But anyway,
Oh, man.
that's funny. Hey, Sean, which part are you scared of already? Down in the hollers. Yes, Joe, down in the hollers.
Green holler.
So, anyway, so they said the little boy's wearing a red shirt, shorts, and Oxford shoes, which I thought Oxford shoes, but you know, they probably didn't have hiking shoes back in the day.
He was a little preppy.
Yeah, he's a little preppy husky kid. Just kidding. Just kidding on the husky. Anyway, so within minutes of him missing, they look for about 5 minutes on their own. Everybody's calling him, and Dennis isn't coming out. They notify the park officials, and at that evening, and at 5 a.m. they initiate the search, and it would become the largest search effort in the national park. It lasted from June until the first weeks of September, and they had lots of volunteers, the park rangers, the maintenance staff, and strangely, curiously enough, and just make a mental note of what I'm about to tell you, they called in the Army Green Berets. I've not ever heard of the Army Green Berets coming in on a search, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, Despite all the volunteer and efforts, nothing was ever found or any other evidence that he'd even been in the area. So the documentary did mention that they found a shoe print and a footprint, basically like he had one shoe off and one shoe on. But they assumed it was the Boy Scouts that made the track, but the Boy Scouts didn't have any children on the search team. And the shoe print matched the shoe that he was wearing. And not to mention they had rain, they had fog. I mean, there was just so many factors that went against them whenever they were doing their search. So there was a witness that was there. His name was Harold Key. And Harold and his family, they were staying in Cades Cove the day of the disappearance. And there was also lots of confusion, too, because he didn't report this until after he'd made it back home when he heard reports of the little boy that had gone missing. But he came forward and said that they heard a terrible scream coming from someplace adjacent to the mountain ridge. And he said that they observed a disheveled-looking Caucasian man. Do not confuse it with this disheveled-looking Caucasian man. But that he was carrying that he was carrying something red. And so if you remember, Dennis was carrying was wearing a red shirt. And at first he kind of just thought it was like a moonshiner. So he kind of just, waved it off as being a moonshiner. But then the thing about it is there's like several different accounts of what this man said. Over the years, Harold's story changed, but not by him, but it's like by the people that shared the story. And so some say it was a wild man, and then they would say because he was hairy, so they'd automatically assume that it was a Sasquatch. Anyway, and there was some things that said that that he also was told by the FBI not to publicly discuss the case. And you guys know that typically FBI only comes out in child cases. Yes, and hey, he chose this life, Joe. This is the life that he chose.
He chose this life and this wife.
Yeah, and this wife. He signed up for this abuse. But anyway, so back to this. He was told not to discuss this publicly by the FBI. So then, a few years later, this man was illegally hunting ginseng, and he found bones, but did not report that he'd found some bones because he was scared to get in trouble.
Ginseng, the root?
Yeah. Ginseng, ginkgo balboa. No, I'm just kidding. It's just a root, I guess. The ginseng.
Rocky what?
Got it. I don't know anybody hunted ginseng.
I mean,
You hunt for truffles. Those are super expensive.
Wait, you hunt for truffles?
Not him.
Not me.
Just
I was like, I don't know if you want to say that out loud here.
No.
Get in trouble.
I go searching for the magic mushrooms.
Shut up. You disheveled Caucasian man. Hush your mouth. Anyway,
I feel
okay.
like there was some intense interaction there. Like Sandy was like not in character or anything. She was like, really?
Really, you do? No.
Y'all both looked
He
at each
probably
other.
has to use them to sedate me sometimes when I'm hangry. He's like,
You
here,
said you
throw
have
some
to use
mushrooms
it
at
to
her.
date you sometimes?
I'll mix them in our evening meals sometimes.
That goes in
Just
that
to
White Claw, doesn't it?
Where is my White Claw? I was going to have one and then I forgot. Eric is drinking, by
In
the
the
way,
mushrooms.
some
Sponsored.
cacti. We're not sponsored, but it's cacti pineapple something or other.
Shot out.
And that's why he did it.
Yeah.
That's why he
Did
did
that
it.
say pickled pineapple at the bottom?
No, it just says
Agave spiked.
Oh, spiked. I thought that
Yeah.
said pickled.
agave spiked.
I gave no sugar
was-
in that thing.
It was
So
not good. Not good. Anyway. Okay. What were we talking about? Okay. So the
White Claw.
ginseng hunter.
Oh.
Carry 420 day, baby.
what? Really?
There's an what did he say?
He said there's an extensive truffle group here. Duh.
There's dogs that actually hunt truffles. Like
You know how
They're-
much you can get for that? It's a
Yeah.
legit side gig if you but they're hard to find though.
Found around trees and such, and
Yeah.
there's
In
not
the
many of
deep
those around here.
mountains.
Not many of that.
where the ferals
Here.
live. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Focus.
that's right.
Oh my gosh. Focus,
Sorry,
people.
sorry. All
So
right,
anyway.
we're talking about okay.
We're back to Spencefield and the bone location. So anyway, I guess the guilt finally got the best of this man and he finally reported it. But the search team that they organized it and nothing was ever found. They never found those bones that he said he found. I mean, look here, ginseng thief. You should have just reported it immediately. I wouldn't have said, hey, I'm out looking for ginseng. I found some bones.
Right. You'd be like, hey, I was just out
was
chilling out.
I was out pooping.
They were out of season.
No, you just had to say you were pooping. Right?
Does a bear?
Poop in the woods.
Yeah.
That's all you had to say. Anyway, needless to say, they never found what was his name? Dennis Martin. They never found Dennis Martin.
Oh,
Okay.
goodness.
And going further down the rabbit hole in Reddit, we found a YouTuber by the name of South Force 10 that our lovely Eric is going to tell us about.
Yeah, let me tell you about old South Force 10 there.
Oh my gosh. And
About
he's painful to listen to. He stresses me out.
Yeah.
So don't stress me out.
Eric or the guy?
Both of them actually. But go ahead.
So if you're gonna watch his YouTube videos, you may want to watch him on a device where you can speed it up a little bit because he's the true definition of Southern. Speaks really, really slow and drawn out. So, no, but anyway, so this guy tells a story from his perspective of what happened to Dennis Martin, right? Because he lives right there on the edge of the Smoky Mountains, the Smoky Mountain National Park or whatever. And anyway,
I'm just reading Carrie's comment. She said my first question would be, "Where's the hole you dug?"
right.
For the ginseng or the poop? Which one are we talking about?
I want to know where to go with that.
Shut your mouth, Harry.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy's telling a story about what the stories that he heard growing up from his family, who were in the area when they were about to establish the national park there at the Smoky Mountains. And so he kind of goes through some stories talking about how the government knew before they established the Smoky Mountains as a national park that there were feral people living in the national park, and that they could potentially be a danger to visitors to the area and detract from people coming to visit the area and bring money and revenue to the nearby towns. And so what they did was they would, according to this man, allegedly, they would go out and pay these locals to hunt these feral people, and they would give them a reward for basically every body that they turned in. And basically said that there was a variety of different feral people that they would bring in. Some looked somewhat normal. Some looked, really, really inbred. Some looked like what you would describe as a Bigfoot.
And he also did go on to say that his family was part of that, involved in the hunting.
Well, yeah, and that's why he told his stories, because he's saying, I'm not telling this because I'm just trying to, stoke any flames or any fires or anything like that. I'm just, he's the last one of his family that's still alive that knows these stories. And so he kind of wanted to pass them on. So he created a YouTube channel. I think it's, what is it called?
South Force 10.
South Force 10. Worth of, interesting stuff. If you want to go listen to some of his videos, he has a ton of videos about some, really weird stuff that happens out there in Tennessee.
Oh, Renee might want to look at it, because there's some ghostly stuff in there.
Really?
Yes.
Well, what's interesting is we're talking about this is I keep thinking missing 411 over and over.
Well,
like everything about this screams.
Zip it. Hold on, we're gonna get there.
Goes full circle. No, but anyway, so this guy is telling these stories about one, about how they would, in preparation for opening the national park, the government would come in and pay people to hunt these things. And then when the disappearance of Dennis Martin happened, he said that they called in the Green Berets, and the Green Berets did not come to search for Dennis Martin, according to this gentleman.
Hold on, this needs some airtime. Come on, kids, we get $5 for roadkill and $10 for feral. Yeehaw.
No, but anyway, so like I was saying, he said that the Green Berets didn't come. They called in the Green Berets, but they didn't call them to search for Dennis Martin. They called them because they'd had enough of these guys snatching up, kids, and because Dennis Martin wasn't the first kid that
they were out of bubblegum.
Disappeared.
Yeah, he said
he was just the most prominent one because he was from Knoxville.
So like others that had been taken were just not as prominent. They were
the publicity.
They were just small town kids. Just a small town girl.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Get it, share.
Get it disheveled.
No, but anyway, so they called the Green Berets in there, and supposedly they communicated over their secret army channels, and
they did not say that.
They just went in there to guns ablazing to take all these ferals down, and supposedly
we don't got stouts big enough for those ferals.
Not really.
So anyway, so they went in there and did a lot of damage and
took a lot of names.
Yeah.
And the lead, was it in the lead Green Beret, whatever?
Yeah, the guy that I guess the guy that was in charge of that whole program, or
in charge of the feral depopulation.
Yeah, the feral depopulating wound up
tripping on the stairs.
Yeah,
he unalived himself after
he's no longer with us. He didn't make it
because it was just traumatic.
He had seen a little bit too much, according to some.
Because according to this gentleman, the ferals were, women and children, basically.
Yeah, there's women, there was children.
And so that was a lot for him.
But I think they were just told, exterminate everybody.
Sean said to wait. He needs to go poop.
Time out, Sean.
Go ahead, Sean. We'll wait for you here, okay?
Just take the phone with you. We'll keep talking.
Just take the phone. Oh, that's right. You don't need to. Carrie says, dollar bill, y'all. Okay.
So anyway, questions.
Okay. Just to be serious, for just a quick minute here. This kid gets taken, lost, whatever adjective you want to use, in a pretty dense forest, right?
Right.
It's 1969, and one of the responses here is to call a super, intense military team on American soil to come out and not do like some drills, but to actually say, yeah, we're going to drop you in here with some heavy munitions and just need you to go to town, right?
Yeah, because
And-
the Green Berets, I mean, I know we're just kind of throwing it out, but the Green Berets are better known as the Special Forces. That's
so
what
these
they
guys are sickly trained, like to do their jobs well.
Yeah. So
these aren't just a
these
couple,
are the
like,
guys that
mall cops.
like
They're not
as
Paul Blorts of the world.
as an example, after 9/11, these were the guys that were the first in in Afghanistan looking for bin Laden and his ilk. But so they're not they're trained for.
They know what to look for. These guys are
they're not out there to make friends.
Yeah. So then they go out there, and we kind of don't know what happens, but we got a record here from someone who was related to this.
So basically, what he's insinuating is that with the disappearance of Dennis Martin, that by sending in the Green Berets, everybody knew what had happened to Dennis Martin. That one of the feral people had taken him.
Yeah.
And so that was, the sending in the Green Berets was the government's revenge to try to eliminate them. They think this guy mentioned that they think that they probably, just were able to snap his neck and take him without him making a noise. And that's why he, kind of disappeared without a trace,
But Jamie, there is record, and there also is a picture of the Green Berets being there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, in the documentary, the one that's on Prime that I told you guys to rent for $2.99, that one does have the pictures of all the searchers. I mean, I'm talking about they did like 200 flight hours looking for him, and I can't remember the amount of people that were there to search for him. But I mean, it was like 6 states that came in. There was Boy Scouts. I mean, there was a lot of people that came in to do the search. But, if you have all these volunteers, you do kind of question, like, why the Green Berets, why would they come in? But and as we know, FBI does come in for children, because I know that was a question in one of them, and I'm like, no, FBI doesn't come in for adults, they do come in for children, because I guess they believe that he'd been abducted. They don't come in for a kid missing in the woods typically.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, do y'all have any Dennis Martin questions? Oh, you know what, Jamie, I just noticed, like, I have all these other comments on my page. They're not coming through over on this one.
Dang it.
So sorry, guys, if I'm missing you over here. Alex, Minnie, Joe. Don't
worry about that. Don't worry about that, Sandy. I'll look into it. You keep.
But anyway, I just wanted to just let you guys know that
I'm going to go over there and ask some of their questions.
Okay.
You just stay with the story.
Anyway, okay, so that's what we found on Dennis Martin. Again, there's different podcasts that are available, and South Force 10 is also the guy that shared the stories that has passed down from his family. I found one more Reddit story that I wanted to share, and I'm not going to read it verbatim, but so we can get the gist of it. Okay, so this was posted by Blue Jean Baby, and blue is spelled with several U's and several E's, but it's Blue Jean Baby over on Reddit. Thank you for sounding that out for me. But
pronunciation.
He says, I once had a close friend who was an avid hiker. We'll call her Annie for the sake of keeping her identity safe. She spent most of her free time hiking trails in and around the Appalachian region of Tennessee and North Carolina. No matter the time of year, she was always out hiking. So one summer, she decides to spend a few weeks hiking the Appalachian Trail. She wasn't going to do the full thing, so she started hiking at the beginning of Springer Mountain in Georgia, and she was going to finish up in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. That's a lot of freaking miling and walking and hiking. I mean, that's too much. But kudos to those people that can do it. Like hike 3 miles and I'm good. Anyway,
I'm glad you make enough money to do that, right? That's what
honestly. So her friend says, I was all for it. I encouraged her to do it, and I helped her prepare and even arranged to meet her where the trail crossed through the Newfound Gap area in the Great Smoky Mountains. I was going to bring her supplies and hike for a few days with her along the trail while she was in the park close to where I lived at the time. So the time came for her journey to begin, and he drove her to the trailhead, dropped her off, and left behind a very excited and determined Annie. So during the first few weeks of her journey, he received several postcards from her as she would stop in and pick up prearranged packages containing food and supplies. She would write as often as she could to assure him that she was safe and that she was making good time. So eventually July rolled around, and it was getting close to meeting her. So before she left, they had sat down and they figured out, when she would be reaching the backcountry shelter, and they were set to meet July the 10th. So that's where like, I'll be there, blah, blah, blah. So she was supposed to send a postcard from the last re-up spot before they were set to meet. And all of her previous cards came in, and she was feeling great. And she would told him the last one that she was still on schedule to meet, and he'd received that July 2nd. So they were going to go stay at a lodge for the evening and have dinner and rest up before continuing on the trail. And they were like at Mount LeConte Lodge. It's one of the more popular destinations in the park, and you have to make a reservation months in advance in order to have shelter for one of these at the night. So it was important that we stayed true to our schedule, and Annie knew this very well. So anyway, they gathered up supplies. Yeah. You know what? Someone said that. I was actually that in a podcast. Is like, Annie, are you okay? And you know what else they said in that podcast? They said that that song was written what is it? Night Stalker. Yeah. What is his name? Richard Ramirez. That was the reason behind that song. Anyway, they mentioned that. I'm like,
you've been struck by a smooth criminal.
Yeah, really. So I'm gonna go back to that. I don't know if that's any truth or not, but when you said that, that's funny. That just triggered that memory.
I thought you were going to say Michael Jackson's still alive.
He is.
What?
He thought I was going to say Michael Jackson was still alive. I'm like,
keep going. I'm sorry.
So anyway, eventually they make it to the shelter, and they are fully expecting Annie to be there. And it was mid-afternoon, and they had been running an hour or two behind schedule. So they went to the front desk to see if Annie had checked in, only to find that she hadn't arrived yet. And they didn't think much of it because, surely, she's a little bit tired, or she's getting late, or, there's something that could have happened. So she might be running a couple of hours late. So they went up to the lodge, they had some coffee, enjoyed the books while they waited for her to arrive. Well, sunset came and she still didn't show up. And so they began to get worried because they were like, Annie knows what she's doing, and we're not really sure why she hasn't popped up yet. So the boyfriend walks over and asks, has anybody named Annie come over to check in? And they're like, no one has. So they head back to the shelter, and they're trying to calm down, trying to not think worst case scenario. But, I'd be like, worst case scenario, someone killed her on the trail. That's where I'm going to go.
Yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense.
I mean, we don't talk
shit. What were normal folks thinking?
So they were just thinking that she's running behind schedule, like normal people would think that. It said the trails in the area of the park reached the highest elevations, so she probably got worn out, fell behind track. Not me. I'm like, she died. Someone killed her.
One of those feral people.
One of those feral people done got her. Anyway, they were like, if she doesn't get here tonight, she'll probably make it tomorrow. Don't worry. So they went to bed, and she didn't show up the next day. So they waited around a few hours, and she never came around. About 2:00, they decided to hike down the trail towards the direction she was supposed to be coming. And they told the front office, hey, if Annie gets here, let her know that we went looking, but tell her not to leave. We'll come back. So they make it. They don't find her. They don't meet her along the trail. They come back to the office, and then things start getting hectic for them. So they leave the lodge. They return home. And they leave their contact information with the front desk in case she does get there. Mm-hmm. And she still doesn't arrive. Days pass, and there is no sign of her. So, of course, now she said she's starting to feel anxious and guilt and fear. And so they have notified the police, and they send out these mass search parties. So rangers, police, they're all looking in the area, and, definitely, especially where she was supposed to be. So it wasn't until like almost a week later that they found her. They found her bruised, starving, and hiding in a ravine about 30 miles away from the Appalachian Trail and the shelter she had last stayed at. So just over a day later, after they found her, the friend was able to go see her at the hospital, and she didn't tell police what had happened. She hadn't even been able to speak at all. So she said it took her a few years to finally be able to tell her experience. So she said this experience made her quit hiking altogether, and she will never go back to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And she was okay with sharing the story. So this is what happened to her. These are her words. I left the last shelter around 8 in the morning on June 31st and hiked most of the day, making really good time. I was resting and eating some snacks to give me the last boost of energy I needed to make it to my campsite for the night. It was late in the afternoon, and that's when I first heard it. The sounds of men's voices coming from a pretty good distance away. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but I figured it was some guys walking the trail, nothing out of the ordinary. So I sat there for about 15 minutes and nobody ever walked by. The voices would come in and out, and it was really weird. But at this point, I'd been hiking alone for a few weeks, so I assumed I was just making things up in my head because I was lacking regular human contact. I grabbed my things and I continued on my way, reaching my campsite just as the sun disappeared and the light was waning. I set up my tent, strung up my belongings on a wire cables to keep them from bears and animals if they decided to wander over. I was relaxing in my sleeping bag, reading a book when I heard it again. Voices, louder than before. I could faintly make out heavy Appalachian accents, though it was still difficult to make out their conversation. I waited for the sound of leaves, like crunching or twigs cracking, to indicate hikers joining my sight, but the sound never came. I shut my eyes and willed myself to sleep. Okay, first of all, I'm not going to sleep. I mean, if there's men out there, I'm not going to sleep. And I'm in a freaking tent,
story, Sandy.
Right? Hold on, girl.
Tired.
So she tells herself, I'm just hearing things. So the next morning, greeted with soft sounds of birds chirping, soft breeze humming through the trees and against my tent. I went outside and, to my dismay, found some wrappers of my freeze-dried food scattered across the ground. They looked as if they'd been torn into, and all the food was gone. It was only a couple of packs, so I still had a decent supply. I had guessed that the squirrels had found a way into my backpack. The only strange part about it was that my backpack was zipped shut and it didn't show signs of any nibbling or scratches an animal would have left. I packed up my campsite uneasily, trying not to think about the coincidence of the voices I heard the night before. I walked faster this day, trying to keep a quicker pace, with the hopes that I would leave the weird voices and strange happenings behind me. I'd been hiking for a few hours, passing a very minimal amount of people, when I heard the voices again. They didn't go away this time. They always seemed to stay at a steady pace behind me, and no matter how many times I looked over my shoulder, I could never find anyone. I came upon my next campsite and made the split decision to hike through the night. I mean, at this point, I'm like, girl's got balls of steel. Like, I'm, you know what? I'm just going to turn back with the people. There's a group of people, that's who I'm going to turn back with. But anyway, she hikes through the night. If these people who had been following me were dangerous, I didn't want to set up camp and leave myself vulnerable in a position to be attacked. But you'd already been setting yourself in a position to be attacked the previous night.
You literally went to sleep.
You
to
fell
ignore
asleep.
them.
Right. So anyway, I walked slowly through the night using my flashlight as a guide. The voices had stopped a couple of hours ago, and I was beginning to feel like I lost them. Whoever they were, I came to a small opening in the trail and decided I would rest for a few hours because my feet felt like they were on fire, all the walking I had done. I hadn't taken the tent from my backpack when I heard the voices, this time directly behind me. There she is. A deep voice rung through my ears, and I spun around, pointing my flashlight in the eyes of two men who were ragged, dirty, and unshaven. Not you. Anyway, the look in their eyes was sinister, and I will never forget the way my skin crawled beneath their gaze. I screamed, and I took off running in the direction I had come from. I could hear their bare feet in the mountains, following along the trail behind me as I ran. When I was far enough away and over a hill, I cut off the trail and sprinted as fast as I could through the brush and trees. It was breaking dawn at this point, so I was unable to maneuver easier than if it were still pitch black out. For the next 2 weeks, I hid in the woods, dodging their looming voices and hiding in bushes. They were never far off. Sometimes I would see them wandering around and talking about the things they wanted to do to me. They looked as if they hadn't bathed in months, and they both only wore torn-up cargo shorts. Their hair was long, and their bodies were covered in mud. I knew I wouldn't have anyone looking for me for at least another week because no one was expecting me until July 7th. I barely fended for myself, struggling to find water and to ration my food accordingly. I knew if they found me, they would do bad things to me. I felt it in their eyes, and I felt it when I looked at their clenched fist, heard their raspy voices. Eventually, a park ranger and a group of volunteers found me. A few weeks later, after being home and out of the hospital, I did some research and found out that there were people who would hide in the mountains to escape the law, living there in order to avoid jail for the crimes they had committed. There were people who had murdered and violated people in many ways that would have warranted life in jail or even death. They were called the wild men. So, what do you think? Do you think that's enough to tell you that there's feral people?
The wild man.
I don't know. Here's the thing: is that was a really good story because it got me good. But
Right.
I believe it. It doesn't take much, but you guys have to understand. Like I'm also the kind of guy. I'm afraid of germs, so I overly wash my hands. If you tell me that there's some feral people out there that may want to eat me or something like that, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm in no rush. And I tell you what, I love camping. I remember that was one of the last things I did before I left Lubbock was go camping with Joe and a couple of the other guys. So, yeah.
Just don't go to the Smoky Mountains, apparently.
Yeah. Because it's seriously the only time that I've ever heard of the feral people were just Smoky Mountains. Like nothing ever else came up anywhere else.
And the missing 411.
Hold on a second. Oh my God.
Hey, MC.
So, anyway, in conclusion to all of this.
Oh, we're in conclusion already?
Yes.
Dang it. I'm still trying to process this. This story was crazy. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I'm going to tell you right now, I did not find enough evidence to say that feral people exist. This is just my opinion. Like, I truly believe the episode that we did on missing 411 the hunted, y'all, aliens. Aliens. That's what I think. Because
you think the feral people are aliens?
I don't think that there's really feral people.
Oh, okay.
That's my opinion. What do you think, feral man?
I think there are. I think there are feral people, and I think that all the supposed sightings of Bigfoot or Big Feet or however you call
Sasquatchians,
the plural Bigfoot,
Moosin.
I think those are probably just feral people, and I think that creepy sound that we heard on our 411 episode a while back. I think that was feral men.
Joanne says, if I ever go, not likely, but I'm taking a side of beef with me. Maybe that would be tastier than me.
Just throw little chunks of beef.
So that's pretty funny. That was one of the things that I was going to mention too. When we're talking about these feral people and like these kids that wind up getting raised by, wild animals, cows, pigs, dogs, whatever the heck it is. When they find them, they only eat raw meat. And I'm like, man, we can't even eat raw meat without getting sick, right?
Yeah.
Right. You can eat raw beef, but that's about it. You can't eat, raw pork,
chicken,
or
fish,
or anything like that. You can eat fish raw, but anyway, but they won't eat. They won't eat. They try to feed them cooked meat, and they're like, this is gross. Give me some raw stuff. So just found that pretty interesting how they can adapt. I guess if they, I don't know. if when they're young they get introduced to eating raw meat, maybe their body produces the necessary
your body can
enzymes
do
or
some
whatever
stuff.
that you need to be able to break it down.
Our next child will feed it raw. See if he's
raw food diet coming to
You know how you can find a
near
feral
you.
person in a restaurant?
what?
When Gordon says it's raw, they're the only person who's running to Gordon saying, "You donut."
Yeah. Yeah, they're the only ones not saying you donut. Is it right? One of those.
So here's what I think is, I don't know feral yet. Obviously, there's cases of kids and adults who have feral backgrounds. There's a story in that, right? I also believe that there's people who are hiding out in mountains and who are like mountain men.
Yeah.
And I know that there's people like that. I mean, we've seen even the government take stands against some of these people who live off the grid. So it doesn't take that much to think.
That hermit, what was his name? The Unabomber. He lived in the mountains, didn't he?
Timothy McVeigh.
And I still think DB Cooper's out there somewhere living out in the mountains.
Who's DB Cooper?
Anyway.
Well, there's a whole movement of people that call themselves sovereign citizens, and I think that's kind of the some of that that they. Well, I mean, not necessarily that all those guys are feral, but they could be considered uncivilized. They're completely off the grid, completely out of unknown to regular people.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. So, but specifically feral, like I'm more aligned to think Missing 411, which if y'all haven't seen, Sandy did a show on Missing 411 it was pretty epic. The stuff that goes down there.
Listen to the noises.
I was gonna say the disheveled Caucasian was on there with me.
I was
on the Missing 411 too. I need to watch that one.
But what's his name? Pallades or
Politis?
Politis?
David Politis. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
David Politis.
So he's written a series of books, and he's even got a series of books on children.
And I want to say, and I have to look at this, the sushi of the trees. Sush. We need some more sush.
Sushi's good.
What is it? Oh, I think he has a show called Vanished. I think when I was
Up and Vanished.
No, just Vanished.
Oh, that was like one of your first podcasts.
Oh yeah, Up and Vanished was one of my first. That was with Trisha Grinstead, Tara Grinstead. That was a good one. But anyway.
Looking it up, Vanished show.
So, what do you guys think about that? Do you think
the Sasquatchians?
Anita says this sounds too fictional, like alien stories. Just saying, Jamie.
We need to ask JD if there's something going on.
JD's the feral Mexican. I'm good because he's not watching the show.
Yeah.
I can say that. Not you, JD, a different JD.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do you guys think? I don't know. I just feel like
here's the thing is there's a big story that's attached to this. So there's a little bit of merit that can be added to it, I believe, right?
What?
Like there's some Dennis Martin. I mean, he got taken away. There was a big story in the show right now. So I mean, there's room for.
But his case is technically still unsolved.
But according to South Force 10, he's like, it's solved. I know exactly what happened to him.
But officially, he also says it will never be solved, and they will never find his body.
What if the Green Berets were not actually Green Berets, but they were like Men in Black, Men in Green, and they were going down there to take on the aliens?
Which was black and white. How do we know their berets were green?
They were the frogmen.
Frogmen. Yes. Okay.
That's what they call the Navy SEALs, frogmen.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not 100% on it, but I do believe that there's real people, nothing supernatural though. That there are real people out there. I do what I said earlier. So yeah, but yeah, what are you guys thinking out there?
And maybe they crossbred with actual Sasquatch.
With aliens. They got probed. So
I read a science journal earlier this week, and there is in petri dishes this week they have embryos that have human and primate DNA.
Stop it.
And I know it's yeah. And then if you heard what Elon said a week or two ago, right? He wants to make Jurassic Park a reality.
Oh my gosh.
And
He has too many good ideas.
Didn't he watch the movies? Does he not know what happens?
I would say something, but I'm not going to say it on here. I think you can just read my mind.
Okay. So Alex says
Neuralink. He'll be able to before you know it.
Alex says they're just Neanderthals that kept on going, a different race of human-like folk. Well, that's possible. Yeah.
Well, you know,
good answer.
Well,
good.
I think it's probably something like that. Like if this guy was correct, and you know, you had some of these Cherokees that kind of wandered off the Trail of Tears, and then they
just kept living over there.
Yeah,
there's been people. Oh, that's a good point, Eric. Because like in the Amazon, there's people who they found living there who are still from ancient times who didn't even have they're like, oh wow, there's a race of people living in these forests, and have been there for thousands of years, and we had no idea they were there. And it's like, oh crap. And islands too. There's little islands with people who they didn't know were.
The U.S. government knows things.
I will.
You knew. They knew.
They know. They know. So yeah, everyone, tell us what you think. And in the meantime, you'll see where we put down there if you have any topics for future episodes coming up.
Oh, we have a great episode coming up next week, so y'all make sure to tune into that. I already have my guest in line. We have our topic ready to go, so y'all make sure y'all put that on your calendars because it's going to be good. It's another little mystery. Might involve some murder. I don't think there's any Sasquatch or feral people, but who knows? Who knows? I like to talk shit about everything.
I think anytime you find an unsolved mystery from now on, you're like, well, maybe it was the feral people that took them.
True.
Now, if we could leave with that might be something you can pin back. And when people ask you, just tell them, I watched Sandy talk about this sheet. And
right. Sandy said, allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Oh, Joanne says government never tells us anything. They just like to hide it. True that, Joanne. Go watch, what was it called? Oh, shoot. The Last Narc. Prime.
Oh, yeah.
Go watch that. That's
the last what?
The Last Narc.
Oh, okay.
Go watch it and tell me what y'all think about it. If y'all want, we can do a show on it.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
That would be a good one to do. Anyway, okay, kids, it's past y'all's bedtime. It's past my bedtime. Even though all these lights are on, I feel like it's like bright outside, but it's not. So tune in Thursday at 9 next week. We have another great topic. If you have a topic, if you want to be on the show, or if you're too shy to be on the show, whatever, get over yourself. You can be on the show.
If you're planning to go to the Smoky Mountains anytime soon, be careful on the trails.
Yes.
Don't go out at night.
And then if you get eaten by a feral person, I want to talk to you about it. So.
And because of Missing 411, don't ever be by yourself just don't ever be by yourself out there.
I mean, honestly, and don't disappear from your group. I mean, you always disappear.
Like when you hear that noise or you feel that pull to go to that rock formation, just don't.
Just pray about it.
Be like the Army trained us. Always have a battle buddy.
Yes.
Always have a battle buddy.
Have a hiking buddy, a pooping buddy. I mean, don't go poop by yourself. I'm obsessed with poop tonight.
Yeah.
I'm just okay with it. I'm trying to be okay with it. I didn't used to be okay with it.
Don't take a sheet in the woods.
Yes, alone. By yourself. Never sheet by yourself. Right, Sean? Right?
Sean knows.
Anyway, okay, kids.
All right.
I've enjoyed it. Thank y'all so much for being here. And what were you going to say, Jamie?
No, nothing. Have a good week, everyone.
Right. Don't be feral and disheveled human beings. Remember, let's keep talking sheet. We'll see you later.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.